In 1984, Sampson teamed with Hakeem Olajuwon, and they formed a front line unlike any seen before.
The two big guys, Robinson and Duncan, with the talent that they have.
I was impressed by the Wolves, and you can see, the impact that Pat Bev has made.
Size is certainly an advantage in the NBA. Everybody wants to have a 7-footer on the court to help them rebound, defend, and offer something different on offense. But there have been a few occasions in league history where teams have employed a pair of 7-footers. So how did anyone stop two dominant big men in one team? When you think about two dominant big men playing on the same team, your mind probably goes straight to the Twin Towers. David Robinson and Tim Duncan were probably the most successful 7-footer duo in league history, but they certainly weren't the first. Thanks in part to having the #1 overall pick in back-to-back seasons, the Houston Rockets were able to form a 7-foot-plus duo in their front court. They first selected 7'4" Ralph Sampson in 1983, following that up by taking hometown center Hakeem Olajuwon first overall the following year. All of a sudden, the Rockets had something that nobody had seen in the league for a very long time. They had two true 7-footers who could dominate in the front court. It was a scary pairing from day one that brought immediate success. They went from one of the worst teams in the league to one of the best very quickly. The Rockets improved by 19 games in the first season of the Twin Towers, losing in the first round of the playoffs. But in just their second season together, the pair guided the Rockets to the NBA Finals, dominating the Lakers on their way to face the Celtics in 1986. Despite losing the series in 6 games, the Rockets were nicknamed the New Boys on the Block. They had a formidable front court that was pretty much unstoppable. No other team in the league had two 7-footers who could match up to Sampson and Hakeem. There was, however, one thing that led to the Rockets' downfall. One of the main risks with employing 7-footers is that they tend to be pretty injury-prone. The injury bug hit Sampson in the following year after suffered a major cartilage tear in his knee in a game against the Denver Nuggets. Sampson rushed back to be healthy, a decision which cost him his career. The following year, injuries once again plagued Sampson, despite continuing to put up impressive numbers. In part thanks to falling out with head coach Bill Fitch, Sampson was traded, and the original Twin Towers were separated. Sadly for Sampson, his career would struggle after moving, and he would retire early due to injury. Hakeem was able to find success without a big man partner, winning back-to-back titles in 1994 and 1995, being the main beneficiary of Michael Jordan's baseball experiment. Even though they had failed to win a title together, this pairing was the inspiration for Greg Popovich, forming a Twin Towers of his own. The San Antonio Spurs were a playoff team for most of the 1990s. They were led by former league MVP David Robinson, who took them to the Western Conference Finals in 1995. But Robinson never had a superstar teammate during his prime, and so the Spurs struggled to reach the finals. 2 seasons after winning MVP, Robinson would miss most of the 1996-97 season, as the Spurs finished with a dismal 20-62 record. It did land them the first overall pick in the draft, which was obviously going to be Wake Forest big man Tim Duncan. It just so happened that Robinson's injury coincided with another highly skilled 7-footer preparing for the league. The pair of them became known as the Twin Towers and had success immediately. The Spurs lost to eventual Western Conference champions, the Utah Jazz, in 1998. A year later, they lost just 2 games in the playoffs on their way to the NBA title. As Robinson began to age, Tim Duncan developed into a superstar and was named Finals MVP in 1999. The pair played together for 6 years, rounding out their time together with a second championship ring, this time beating the New Jersey Nets in the finals. While Duncan played for San Antonio for another decade, it was the pair of them that helped to launch a dynasty. It was pretty much impossible for anyone to stop these two in their prime. They didn't just have success because they were both 7 feet tall. It also helped that both players were incredibly skilled for their size. Duncan especially could pass, dribble, and shoot the ball effectively, while still being a menace in the post. People forget just how skilled David Robinson was on offense, and how he was able to succeed in an era that featured countless superstar centers. The pair of them were also able to form a formidable Spurs defense. You had absolutely no chance of getting into the paint when David Robinson and Tim Duncan were both on the floor. The versatility and agility of both players helped to make the partnership succeed. Having head coach Greg Popovich at the helm also helped, as he was able to design the perfect system for the Twin Towers. The Spurs built on a lot of the same principles that gave the Rockets success in the 1980s. They were more successful in part because they were able to stay healthy, which is something that the Rockets pair really struggled with. Considering the success that David Robinson and Tim Duncan had together, you might be asking why other teams don't try to copy this method. Why is it that there are so few examples of two 7-footers on the same team? Well, for one thing, it's almost impossible to find skilled big men in the NBA who can work together seamlessly. There are very few NBA players who are 7 feet tall, and pairing them together doesn't always work, especially when they share a similar skill set. If you have two guys who rely heavily on getting into the paint, then all of a sudden it becomes very congested close to the basket, and your team becomes one-dimensional. The reason why the Spurs had so much success is that both of their big men can shoot from the mid-range and were able to create their own shot, as well as create shots for others. There are also some strategies that other teams employed to try to stop the Twin Towers. The 2001 Western Conference Finals is a great example of that. The Spurs were not just beaten by Shaq and Kobe, they were humiliated. The Lakers swept the Spurs, thanks in part to their ability to space the floor. When you can keep the big men moving, it makes it very difficult for them to be as effective on defense. It also, of course, helped the Lakers that they had a superstar big of their own, who was able to match up very effectively to either Duncan or Robinson. So while spacing the floor helps, it's also just pretty rare that two 7-footers can stay healthy for a prolonged period of time together. We have seen plenty of other teams try to form their own version of the Twin Towers and have watched it fail miserably. The Rockets tried to recreate this pairing when they brought in Dikembe Mutombo to play alongside Yao Ming, but injuries cut short any chance of that pair having success. The short-term 7-footer pairing of Kristaps Porzingis and Boban Marjanovic didn't work out great for the Mavericks. Other than injuries, the other reason why 7-footer partnerships fail is because the players involved are not skillful enough, particularly in the 1990s and 2000s. This was something that we saw all the time. However, the role of the center is continuing to change in the league. Much more focus is now put on versatility and being able to space the floor. One-dimensional big men are a thing of the past. Nikola Jokic is a great example. The Nuggets center is a towering force on the inside, yet also one of the best passers in the league, regardless of position. Karl Anthony Towns is the epitome of a modern-day center. He's 7 feet tall, yet can hit threes at an efficient rate, while still being powerful and a great rebounder. It looks like he's forming the next great 7-footer partnership at the moment alongside Rudy Gobert. Part of their success in the 2023-24 season is of course down to the great play of Anthony Edwards, but having two 7-footers on the court makes the Minnesota Timberwolves a difficult matchup for every team in the league. Considering how skillful big men in the NBA are becoming, there is certainly room for the next of the NBA's Twin Towers to blossom over the next few years. Maybe 7-footer partnerships could be the next evolution of the NBA. But what do you think about pairing two 7-footers together on an NBA court? Put your thoughts in the comments down below. While you're down there, hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.